Hash, can you pretend to be my wife for 2 weeks? CEO begged a shy baker to save his daughter's birthday. The rain hammered against the glass door of Sweet Haven Bakery as Emma Chen wiped down the counter for the 3rd time that evening, her hands trembling slightly the way they always did when she was alone with her thoughts. She had just flipped the sign to closed when a black Mercedes pulled up outside, and a man in an expensive suit burst through the door, his hair disheveled, his eyes desperate in a way that made her heart skip. "Please," he said, his voice breaking on that single word. "I know this will sound insane, but I need you to pretend to be my wife for 2 weeks. My daughter's life depends on it." Emma stood frozen, the dishcloth falling from her hands to the counter. The man before her was Alexander Hunter. She recognized him from the business magazines that sometimes sat in the waiting room of her dentist's CEO of Hunt Industries, billionaire, and apparently, a man at the absolute end of his rope. His eyes were rimmed with red, and there was a rawness to his expression that no amount of money could fake. "I'm sorry, what?" Emma managed to whisper, her natural shyness making her voice barely audible over the rain. Alexander stepped forward, then seemed to catch himself, respecting her space even in his desperation. "My daughter, Sophie. She's 7 years old. And she's in the hospital. She has a rare heart condition, and she's been asking for her mother, my ex-wife here, who abandoned us 3 years ago. The doctors say her emotional state is affecting her recovery. Her birthday is in 2 weeks, and all she wants is for her mother to be there, for us to be a family again." His voice cracked. "I can't give her that. But maybe I can give her something close enough to help her fight." Emma's mind raced. This was absurd. This was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not to quiet bakers who spent their days measuring flour and avoiding eye contact with customers. Yet something in Alexander's desperation called to her, perhaps because she understood what it meant to be powerless, to want something so badly you'd do anything to make it happen. "Why me?" she asked, her voice steadier now. Alexander's shoulders sagged with something like relief that she was even asking questions instead of calling the police. "Sophie came in here last week with her nanny. You gave her a cupcake with extra sprinkles because she looked sad. You didn't know who she was, didn't want anything from her. You were just kind. She came home and talked about the nice lady at the bakery for 3 days straight. When I saw you, I thought." He paused, struggling. "You have the same gentle way about you that her mother used to have, before everything changed. And Sophie already likes you." Emma felt her heart hammering against her ribs. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was crazy, that she should politely decline and lock the door behind him. But she thought of that little girl, of how she'd looked up at Emma with those big hazel eyes, of how her face had lit up over a simple cupcake. What kind of person would she be if she turned away from a child who needed help? If this story is touching your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Kindness Pulse for more stories that remind us of the power of compassion. Drop a comment below telling us what you would do in Emma's situation. Your support helps us bring these inspiring stories to you every week. The next morning, Emma found herself being driven to one of Seattle's most prestigious private hospitals, her small overnight bag feeling absurdly inadequate in the leather-scented interior of Alexander's car. He'd explained everything during a 3-hour conversation at her kitchen table the night before. How Sophie's condition was stable but not improving, how the medical team believed her emotional state was creating a barrier to healing, how her 8th birthday in 2 weeks had become a finish line in Sophie's mind. "If mommy comes back for my birthday, it means I'm going to be okay," Sophie had told her father, breaking his heart into pieces so small he didn't know how to put them back together. Emma had agreed to the charade with conditions. She would be kind, she would be present, but she wouldn't lie directly to Sophie. If asked, she would tell gentle truths. Alexander had agreed to anything, everything, his gratitude almost painful to witness. Sophie's hospital room was filled with stuffed animals and drawings, but the little girl in the bed looked so small, so fragile, with wires and tubes creating a technological web around her. When Emma walked in behind Alexander, Sophie's eyes went wide. "Daddy, it's the cupcake lady," she exclaimed, her voice weak but genuinely happy. Emma felt her heart crack open. Alexander crouched beside his daughter's bed, smoothing her dark hair back from her forehead. "Sophie, sweetheart, this is Emma. She's someone very special who's going to stay with us for a while. Would you like that?" Sophie nodded, her small hand reaching out, and Emma found herself moving forward, taking that tiny hand in hers, feeling the warmth of it, the trust in it. "Hi, Sophie," Emma said softly. "I heard your birthday is coming up." "That's a pretty big deal." The little girl's smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. "Will you help me plan it? Will you stay?" And Emma, this shy baker who usually couldn't manage to speak up when someone cut her in line at the grocery store, found a strength she didn't know she possessed. "I'll stay," she promised. The first week was harder than Emma could have imagined. She moved into the guest room of Alexander's penthouse, a space larger than her entire apartment, and spent her days at the hospital with Sophie, reading stories, doing puzzles, and carefully avoiding the moments when Sophie would look at her with hope-filled eyes and call her something that sounded dangerously close to Mama. Alexander was the two, and Emma watched him transform from the desperate man who'd burst into her bakery into a father who would do anything, sacrifice anything, for his child's happiness. She saw him sleep in a chair beside Sophie's bed, saw him make ridiculous voices when reading stories to make his daughter laugh, saw the way his hands shook when the doctors came in with test results. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, she felt something shifting in her chest. Something warm and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Sophie was getting stronger. The nurses commented on it, the doctors seemed cautiously optimistic. "Whatever you're doing," Dr. Martinez told them during a consultation, "keep doing it. Her numbers are improving." But Emma knew it wasn't just her presence, it was the feeling of family, of love, of security that came from seeing her father and this kind stranger working together to create a cocoon of safety around her. On the 10th day, Alexander found Emma crying quietly in the hospital cafeteria at 2 in the morning. He sat down across from her, 2 cups of terrible vending machine coffee in his hands. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. Emma wiped at her tears, embarrassed. "I'm going to break her heart," she whispered. "In 4 days, I'm supposed to leave, and she's going to think I abandoned her, just like her mother did. What have we done, Alexander?" He was quiet for a long moment, and when Emma looked up, she saw that his eyes were bright with unshed tears too. "I've been thinking about that," he said slowly, "and I've come to realize something. I asked you to pretend to care about my daughter. But you're not pretending anymore, are you?" Emma shook her head, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Neither am I," Alexander continued, his voice rough. "I asked you to pretend to be part of our family, but Emma, somewhere along the way, you became part of our family, and I've fallen in love with you. The real you. The woman who puts extra sprinkles on cupcakes for sad children. The woman who reads the same bedtime story 5 times because Sophie asks. The woman who's brave enough to love a broken family and try to help us heal." Emma's breath caught. She'd felt it too, this growing connection, but she'd pushed it down, told herself it was just the intensity of the situation, the emotional pressure cooker they'd been living in. But looking at Alexander now, seeing the truth in his eyes, she couldn't deny what her heart had been whispering for days. "I love her," Emma admitted. "I love Sophie like she's my own. And I love you too, though I'm terrified to say it. Terrified this is all some fever dream and I'll wake up alone in my apartment and none of this will be real." Alexander reached across the table, taking her hands in his. "It's real. We're real. And I know we did this backward and strange, but Emma, I don't want you to leave in 4 days. I want you to stay. Not as someone pretending to be my wife, but as the woman I'm falling in love with. As the woman Sophie loves. As part of our family, if you'll have us." Sophie's birthday party was held in her hospital room because she wasn't quite ready for discharge yet, but it was the most joyful celebration Emma had ever witnessed. Balloons crowded the ceiling, a birthday cake from Sweet Haven Bakery Emma had insisted on making it herself sat on the rolling table, and Sophie, looking stronger and more vibrant than she had 2 weeks ago, sat in the center of it all like a little queen. When it came time to blow out the candles, Sophie closed her eyes tight, and Emma saw her lips moving in a silent wish. "What did you wish for, sweetheart?" Alexander asked gently. Sophie opened her eyes and looked directly at Emma. "I wished that Emma would be my real mommy and stay forever," she said with the devastating honesty of childhood. "Because you make Daddy smile again, and you make me feel safe, and families are supposed to stay together." Emma knelt beside the bed, tears streaming down her face, all her shyness burned away by the intensity of her love for this brave little girl. "I'm not going anywhere, Sophie," she promised. "If it's okay with you and your daddy, I'd love to stay. I'd love to be your family." 6 months later, Dr. Martinez declared Sophie's recovery nothing short of miraculous. Her heart had strengthened, her numbers were excellent, and she was living the normal, active life of a healthy 8-year-old. "I've seen a lot of cases," the doctor told Alexander and Emma during Sophie's final checkup, "but I've never seen love heal like this. Whatever you two did, you gave her a reason to fight, and she did." Emma stood in what had once been the guest room but was now her and Alexander's bedroom, looking at the life she'd built from one moment of saying yes to something terrifying. She'd sold her bakery and opened a new one, Sweet Haven 2.0, with Alexander's business guidance and Sophie's creative input on specialty cupcakes. She'd married the man who'd burst into her old shop on a rainy night, not in some elaborate ceremony, but in a small gathering with Sophie as their flower girl, beaming with pride and joy. She'd become a mother to a child who taught her that bravery wasn't about not being afraid, it was about loving so fiercely that fear became irrelevant. Before we wrap up this beautiful story, if you've been moved by Emma, Alexander, and Sophie's journey, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Pulse, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder that love can heal the impossible. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these heartwarming stories to life. Emma learned that sometimes the moments that terrify us most are the ones that lead us exactly where we're meant to be. She'd walked into that hospital room as a shy baker pretending to be something she wasn't, and she'd walked out as exactly who she was always meant to be, a mother, a wife, and a woman brave enough to let love transform her life. The question, "Can you pretend to be my wife?" had been answered with something far more profound than pretense. It had been answered with truth, with commitment, with the kind of love that doesn't ask for anything except the chance to keep loving. And in the end, Emma discovered that the greatest act of courage isn't slaying dragons or conquering fears, it's opening your heart wide enough to let in the people who need you, even when you're terrified. Especially when you're terrified, because on the other side of that fear, waiting with patient hands and hopeful hearts, is the family you never knew you were searching for, ready to call you home.